Hey, welcome to Data Beats. Today, Tim Geisenheimer, the co-founder of Correlated, is here to answer some questions about account level activation. Hey, Tim.
Hey Arpit, how's it going?
Great. Let's jump right in. Tim, first question for you. Please tell us what is account level activation and why is it so important?
Yeah, account level activation to me means when you have a self-serve product, something that sort of anyone can sign up and use. When do you get beyond just sort of one user, one end user kind of using that product to have maybe a bit more of a team starting to use it? And that relates to a company that they're part of and, I can count. So when does that sort of company level activation or account level activation start based on the self-serve usage of a product? Usually meaning more than one person within an account starting to use it and get value from it.
So, what is the role of data in account level activation?
Well, I think one of the most important things for self-serve products and companies that in the B2B space is, understanding how are people and accounts, so users and accounts being kind of the two primary concepts. How are they using the product, and what's actually going on in their usage? And so, data in terms of that product usage data in particular is an extremely important component to understanding what's going on and then taking action based on that, whether it's in developing the product and making the product better or on the go-to-market side and understanding how to, drive revenue.
When it comes to data and modeling the data for account level activation, what should B2B SaaS companies do beforehand? Should they think about, like incorporating this in their core product data model, or should this be something that they should think about later?
Totally. I mean, I'll tell you what we did, and we're maybe a little biased, but we've from day one instrumented our product as meticulously as we could, and as time would allow. But to understand, how customers are using Correlated, what the differences between users and accounts, really trying to model that out. Within our tracking, we're using Segment for events tracking to do a lot of that, and then we have Snowflake as our data warehouse where a lot of that analysis is occurring. I don't think it's too early to start. A lot of times, as you say, it's a little bit of an afterthought. You're busy kind of building the product as you should be, trying to get the product market fit. The last thing you're thinking about is, what am I going to need to do to, instrument this to when we're at scale, at growth stage to, be able to analyze what's going on. But I think the earlier you can do it, the better. And certainly we've seen companies do it pretty early these days and really be thrilled that they made that investment of time.
Got it. Cool. So, how is account level activation affected when one user is part of multiple accounts? That seems to be a pretty common scenario with B2B SaaS, right? So, how should companies sort of think about that?
It's a great question. This is a core part of kind of why this is a bit of a thorny problem. So there's actually kind of three concepts from a data modeling standpoint. There's the user, which is probably the easiest to understand. That's just the individual. Then there's usually a workspace or organization, so that user will create or maybe join an existing workspace. What many of these self-serve products allow you to do, though, is you can have someone from Apple create a workspace, but then another team, completely, they don't even know this one team created the workspace. Another team creates a workspace in the same product. And let's use Figma, for example. You might have 10 different teams, 20 different teams within Apple, all design teams using Figma. So they're all part of the account of Apple, but they have 20 different workspaces and 200 different employees. And maybe this design team is also working with this design team. So they're part of different workspaces. That, from a data modeling standpoint, is a real challenge and a pain. And so I think a lot of the companies that, the Figmas of the world, they're spending a lot of time trying to accurately model this and represent that data back to the teams that need it, whether it's kind of for analysis, sort of more on the PI side, or for action, more on the go-to-market or marketing side.
Got it. Yeah, I think you've answered my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Considering how important account level data model is in the context of B2B SaaS, why don't marketing and sales engagement tools natively support this? Like, why is the solution still largely work in progress?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think predominantly, I mean, part of why Correlated exists and what we've seen, to date is that the sort of legacy tools, that the products that have been around for a while, the Salesforces, HubSpots, or newer tools like Outreach or SalesLoft, fantastic products, very powerful, but they were designed for a world where enterprise sales was top down, where you kind of, went through a demo process, some sort of sales discovery process before someone even saw your product, let alone were using it. And then, they only started to use it once the sort of deal was closed. So there's this linear path of marketing, sends a lead to sales, sales qualifies it, closes the deal. Then they get the product after they're paid for it. And then customer success helps them, onboard and be successful. That's clean, very, very simple and easy. The world today, as we just described, is 20 teams at Apple using Figma all at the same time. It's a lot messier, and so I think those older tools that kind of were designed to solve problems for that top-down kind of more traditional enterprise sales process in B2B, they fundamentally just didn't anticipate the Figmas of the world and what that would mean for how you do go to market. And so that's why they haven't kind of offered this as a first class solution.
Would you say the cloud data warehouse can solve this problem for good?
So I think what we've seen from a lot of the sort of best product-led growth companies that we're talking to, we talk to most of the household names, the Figmas of the world, et cetera, that you would be familiar with, is they are using the data warehouse to kind of ingest all of their product usage data, to do kind of fundamental modeling using SQL, on top of kind of that data in the warehouse, and then pushing that back out into some of these older tools like Salesforce or HubSpot or Marketo. I think they still feel often very constrained by those older tools, not really having a nice representation of this data model in a first class way, but they're able to kind of hack it together to some extent.
Right. So, how would you recommend companies solve this challenge, the challenge of account level activation, if they don't have the resources or the talent to do this via the data warehouse, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for smaller companies, we would definitely recommend starting with a CDP and doing some basic, instrumentation within your product using a segment or a rudder stack, and just making sure that you're tracking kind of the right sort of core events in your product, and then leveraging, I'll admit we've been shocked to see how few companies leverage like the group call in Segment, which is designed to have a level of representation of accounts, like that concept of accounts. You use a group call to do that. Most companies we talk to don't do that, and so that's part of our recommendation. In any customers we work with, we help them understand why they should be doing that, and often they'll take some time to kind of add that in. So I think there's a lot you can do with just Segment, which is a lot, more accessible and easier to kind of get going with, or RudderStack or some of the other tools out there. Before you kind of, apply that talent that is a little harder to find to kind of do the modeling in the warehouse. You'll still be a little constrained, I think, to like truly customize what you want to do, but I think you can get pretty far.
Cool. Since you mentioned CDP, what is your quick definition of a CDP? Because a lot of different ways CDPs are being defined. So how would you define it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the letters CDP stand for Customer Data Platform. So, I think my definition, maybe not, what some of those companies would prefer, but in my mind, it's, a place to instrument, your event data from your product, and, an easy way to kind of collect that data and then send it to different places, whether it's the warehouse, or you can also use it. I know a lot of companies use it to send to ad platforms, and use kind of some of the more advanced features to do some level of segmentation on top. So I think first and foremost, the way we see it used, at least for a lot of our customers, is a way to kind of easily collect data from your product and your website, kind of do identity resolution, that sort of thing. Is how we see it. So I don't know if that's the sort of stock definition that someone at Segment.
I think that's a good definition. Thank you. So last question before you go, what is the difference between account level activation and account based marketing?
Great question. So I think there's a core difference, and we're seeing kind of this question come up, a lot with some of the companies we're talking to. So account-based marketing is fundamentally informed by kind of third-party data frequently. So you're saying, hey, I have a set of accounts that I'm targeting. I want to know if they're coming to our website, which would be first party. But then I also maybe want to know if they're looking at our competitor's website. Are they maybe browsing certain keywords or doing certain things that would indicate buying intent, that would then help our sales side or our marketing side do a better job kind of getting that account that now is showing intent that it's on our kind of list to buy. So that's a tactic that has been kind of utilized over the last 5-7 years or so, and been pretty successful. I think account level activation is kind of taking predominantly just first party data and saying, who in our universe of customers or self serve users are ready to kind of go down the path of the customer journey and go from maybe a free user to self-serve paid, from self-serve paid to maybe a team prep plan or enterprise plan that's more sales led. That's kind of where account level activation comes in, can be contrasted to account-based marketing techniques of the last 5 years or so.
Got it. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for answering my question and sharing your insights. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, Harpit.
Have data questions? Get expert answers from practitioners on ask.asterisk.com.